Apparently, I have been sleeping on this Black Clover story because I have started watching it and can officially say that it is in my top 5 ranks for my favorite animes. This story is phenomenal. Hello there, my fandom friends, and today we are going to be talking about my thoughts and feelings about season 1 of Black Clover. If you are also watching the show, you can watch it alongside me. All of this content is just going to be from season 1 because that is all I have seen up until this point. So feel free to continue watching or not based on how you feel about the story. So just to get some of the basic things out of the way, season 1 covers episode 1 through 51. And so these are the episodes that I will be talking about. Now, I watched this season in sub, so I did watch it with the Japanese voiceover from the Japanese actors in Japan. I tried watching this show about a year ago, and I just could never get myself into it. I think for me, it was basically just my fear of starting such a big anime. It has about 170 episodes currently, and it's still going, and so that number to me personally is just a very long anime. I was just a bit skeptical going in, but a year later to now, I finally have started it, and I'm just so glad I did. So I'm gonna start off with kind of my huge takeaway from season 1, and I kind of gather that this will be for the remainder of the show. But something I absolutely love is that our main character, Asta, does not have magic. Now, in like all of the stories that I've ever read or watched or consumed in some way, the main character who tends to be very powerless in the beginning of the story usually is granted some kind of power that then involves them becoming the most powerful person in the world or powerful human, whatever it may be, but they do have some kind of ability or magic or something that they're using in order to help them get to that point. Now, in this story, Asta doesn't have magic, yet he is overcoming every single obstacle. We see how hard he works and how strong and powerful he's becoming with absolutely no magic at all. You know, we see him get so much backlash from all of the other people who are like, you don't have magic, like you're basically a nobody. But Asta is there to prove that even if you don't have magic, or even if your magic is weak, that you can still become something so much more and still be the person that you see yourself being one day. I kind of related this back to My Hero Academia, and when I started that story watching Deku, I, during those first 2 episodes, was like, I really hope Deku does not get a quirk, because I would love to see him as a quirkless character make it so far in this story, and of course that is absolutely not the way it went. That's just kind of what I kind of compared Asta and Deku. I love Deku, he's my favorite character in My Hero Academia, so like absolutely no shade toward that story at all. My Hero is my second favorite anime. But that's just a huge takeaway I took from Asta and this story so far, and I really hope that Asta isn't randomly granted with some kind of magic, because I would be very disappointed. I would love to see him go through the remainder of the story with no magic and still make it so far. So now I'm going to go into my initial thoughts of season 1 as a whole, and then kind of break it down further from there, which I'll explain after my initial thoughts. First up, I just love how fast this story is moving. There's so many like mini arcs and then like longer arcs in this season 1, which is a pretty big season from other animes that I've watched, which is typically around the 20-ish episode mark. But there are like no filler episodes. We're going from like fight to fight, but we're also getting some like downtime to really understand and develop characters, which I love. Then I wanted to talk a bit about Asta and Yuno. So Asta, to start off with, I did not like his character until maybe the 30-ish episode mark, maybe 20, 30. I'd have to go back and check to see exactly where that landed. But in the beginning, as you know, being a Black Clover watcher, he is very loud. I know he is very passionate. He is just wanting to do his best, but he is just constantly screaming and shouting, and I'm an introvert, and so watching just a super extroverted character just like be like 1000% extrovert just sometimes like really stresses me out. And obviously nothing against the voice actor. I think they did an amazing job for Asta, and that's just the character. That has nothing to do with the voice actor, but he's just a very loud character, and I think around the 30 episode mark is kind of where he mellows out a bit. And obviously we can see him becoming more mature, so like that was a really cool transition to see even from season 1. Now of course I'm sure he's gonna still have his loud moments, but that was something interesting about Asta as a character, that I'd never really felt as much like annoyance toward a main character before. But now I'm chill with Asta, don't worry. Yuno, on the other hand, I was a Yuno stan in episode 1. He is like my favorite character of Black Clover so far. He's just my type, first of all. Like, he's just my type of character, and so I just love him so much. I know I'll continue to love him throughout the story. He is just the absolute like opposite of Asta personality-wise. So like introverted, he's quiet, but he's still powerful and strong, and I just feel like I could relate more to him. The first couple of episodes, I also realized that he was the voice of Mahito from JJK. If you don't know, I cosplay Mahito, and I just enjoy his character, so that was cool that I picked up on Mahito's voice, because it sounds nothing like Mahito. He did so good with that voice acting, so good job there. And then lastly, for my initial thoughts, kind of going back to Asta and Yuno, it seems like both of them are the main characters, especially since they both came the same night to the church, but it seems like the story is more following Asta, which is great, which is, you know, that's just how the story is going, but I do hope we see more of Yuno in the upcoming seasons, just because I would like more of a balance between the two of them. So from here on out, I am going to be breaking up this video into kind of like the 4 main arcs of this season, which I based around the theme songs that changed 4 times. So starting off with Faraway Future, then going into Paint It Black, Black Rover, and then Guess Who's Back. So starting off with what I am calling Arc 1, Faraway Future. I was shocked by how fast, again, the story is moving. Asta and Yuno getting their grimoires within like the first episode or 2, and then making it to the Clover Kingdom to then be sorted, hopefully, into their sections. Which of course, later we found out that both of them made it into the Magic Knight's entrance exam and got further into each of their academies. But before diving into that, I wanted to just talk about how mysterious Yuno and Asta's kind of backstories were. I know we haven't gotten a ton yet, but just the way that they were both dropped off at the church that same day or night, how they look nothing alike. And so I don't think they're brothers. I'm kind of under the impression that they're not related. However, even if they're not related family-wise or like sibling-wise, I do think they probably still have a powerful connection in some way, especially since they were dropped off in the same night, and with Asta using like this kind of anti-magic and Yuno using like this extreme magic. It's kind of like they're opposites of each other, and so I wonder if that's important. Something else that distinguished them is that Yuno was dropped off with that really like special stone, or it seems to be very precious to him, and Asta wasn't. He wasn't dropped off with anything, at least not that we saw. And so that was interesting. I think that that stone will probably play a part, especially because I think one of the first 2 episodes, or first couple episodes, had Yuno like losing it. It was stolen, and then Asta helped him get it back. And so I think that's drawing attention to that stone for something along the road later. So moving into the Magic Knight's entrance exam, this was so cool. And seeing the 9 magic users, that the heads of each of the academies, was really cool. It reminded me of the Hashira, especially since there's literally 9 Hashira too. But like, they're all so colorful, so vibrant, like each having their own ability. And something that's different about these magic users compared to the Hashira from Demon Slayer is that each one kind of has almost like a class of students that they're helping train. And that very much reminded me of like Hogwarts from Harry Potter, kind of like the houses. But my first kind of impressions of some of these characters, I immediately did not like Nozel. I did not like the way that he spoke to Noelle, his younger sibling. I thought he was incredibly rude and just evil toward her. Something else is that there's just so many characters that I had to keep track of, like right off the bat within these first like 5 to 10 episodes. And I, for some reason, thought that Vengeance was the same character as Marks. I have no idea why. I think maybe it was because both of them are so close to the Wizard King, Julius, that I thought maybe like Vengeance took off his mask and then like he was Marks as like the assistant of the Wizard King, but then he would like switch and put the mask on and be one of the magic like knights. I don't know what I was thinking, where that came from. I don't know, but like I'm trying to, you know, remember all these characters. I'm sure they're all gonna have individualized character development. Jack, yeah, he reminded me of Gyutaro, like right off the bat from Demon Slayer. He was like funny and kind of strange. I'm curious to see the sleeping one, what her ability is, because she just kind of slept the whole time, but somehow still recruited new like magic users. So I'm curious about that. Obviously, I'm so glad that Yami let Asta into his group of people, his magic users. And I really think it's cool that his is the group of kind of misfits, the ones that are seen as being like the less of everything. They don't really perform that well, but they're misfits. And I think that that makes them special and unique compared to everyone else, at least from what I've seen so far. Yami isn't particularly my type of character, but I feel like I'll probably grow to like him as kind of like a mentor type character. And this is funny, but he's the voice of Aizawa from My Hero Academia. I think he'll be actually very similar to Aizawa in the similar way of like teacher and student kind of bond that will end up happening between him and Asta and the rest of the Black Bulls. I'm really very excited to see the rest of the Black Bulls get more development. Of course, we got to see a little bit of Luck this season and a lot of Gauche. We got to see Magna. I think he was the very first one that we learned a bit about. A little bit of Noelle, but not too much yet. But I really like how we're getting these deep dives. I'm interested to learn more about Gray and Gordon, especially because he doesn't really talk, and Gray is very unique in their style. I don't really know anything about them yet, but I'm just really curious to learn more about them. I think the two that fall short for me right now are Vanessa and Finroll. Finroll, I don't like the way he views the other like female characters. Like he just kind of wants to be with all of them, and he just kind of wants to like, I don't know, have a girlfriend or something. Like there doesn't really seem to be much to his personality because of that weird trait he has. And then Vanessa, I'm just not really a fan of like drunk, half naked characters. Like there's nothing really to that. So as of right now, I do not like those two characters. They are at kind of the bottom of my list for the Black Bulls, but I am very curious to learn more about them and everyone else in the group. I think it'll be a really fun time. Something that I thought of right when Asta made it into the house and like everyone was just going crazy and it was complete chaos, was it kind of reminded me of the book by T.J. Klune, The House by the Cerulean Sea, I think is what it's called. Basically this story about like this house of characters of these people who weren't accepted by, you know, normal society, and they each have these different abilities and they're powerful and like beautiful, and like I'm very curious to see if there's kind of similarities between these two stories with the Black Bulls, because I really do think that they could become something so huge in my heart. But yeah, I'm curious to see Asta grow, and I hope that he does not end up having like random magic in the future. I hope he does continue to have this anti kind of magic that he's using. But I'm watching this show with my boyfriend who's already seen it, and he turned to me like as Asta was accepted and he was like, what kind of magic do you think Asta has? And I was like, I don't know, he doesn't have magic. Like, I don't want him to have magic, but like as a joke, I was like, I mean, to never give up? Like, Asta's probably never gonna give up, so I would say that's his magic. I don't know. But continuing my initial thoughts on these characters, I thought that the bird that favors Asta was really interesting, because not only does that bird look a bit different than the other anti-birds, it would throughout the season kind of like show Asta the right way to go, or like show him things that he wasn't seeing clearly, and like kind of like helping him. So like I don't know if it's just gonna like be a little pet throughout the show or what, but like the bird was interesting. Another initial thought I have on a character is, I already forgot his name, but like Buha. I feel so ridiculous saying this and saying Buha as his name because I can't remember his actual name, but I did not like him in the beginning. Obviously, he was not very kind to Asta, and he somehow still got in, and I just did not like him. He's rude, whatever, but like then I started to like catch that he was saying Buha with like every single sentence he said, and like I could just tell he was more of just like an added goofy character for like humor than like an evil character, or at least that's what I'm picking up on. When like Asta and Vanessa, Noelle, I think Finral was there, when they were all in like the dark alley or whatever, and Buha was there on his mission, and like it looked like he had been poisoned and was dying, I actually started tearing up. The first time I teared up during Black Clover was when darn Buha was dying. Literally so ridiculous. Looking back on that, I'm just like, why? But like, he's funny, okay? Like, can we get like some Buhas in the comments or something? Like, someone else out there has to like Buha, right? Like, it's not just a me thing. I think he's funny. I think the Wizard King is really cool. I might also be a little partial to him because I picked up on the little detail that he's actually the same voice actor as Kagaya from Demon Slayer, one of my favorite characters in Demon Slayer. I also cosplay him, but I just think he's so fun and like kind of the perfect person to have at like the head of all the magic users. He just seems to be super observant into like his people and the top magic users, and just making sure that everything is going smoothly with his kind of like what seems like time magic. But he also does kind of like the transformation type thing when he transforms into other people to view different scenarios that play out. So that was cool seeing him be the old lady, and then one of the gang members of the bad guys that ended up ambushing Yuno and Mimosa and Klaus. But yeah, just like little mini arcs like that where the Wizard King was like clearly looking in and just making sure that everything was going smoothly. I love how passionate he is about seeing other people's magic, and like instead of being like jealous of it or like feeling the need to like fight them to have like the more powerful magic, like he just loves it so much, like genuinely just loves to see other people's abilities, which I think is really perfect to have in the Wizard King. Arc number 2, Paint It Black, was the theme song title of this section. We're jumping into the dungeon that was between the Clover Kingdom and the Diamond Kingdom. This was really cool. I wasn't really expecting to see like dungeons in this, like we kind of saw in like Solo Leveling or even Frieren, but that was a cool touch, especially for this kind of fantastical magic world. It made sense that there would be a dungeon. Of course, during this arc, we got to see a little more of Luck. He is probably my favorite Black Bull so far. I just think he's so cute. We learned his tragic story about his mom's death, which was really sad, and I hope that he doesn't really just kind of succumb to a revenge character kind of style with his fighting. Like, I do admire that he just wants to fight people and he wants to take them down, and that's like fun for him. He wants to see probably his own power level compared to other people, but I hope that doesn't become his downfall in like a bad way. I assume that the Diamond Kingdom will become a bigger threat sometime down the road in the Black Clover story, especially because they're like amplifying their kids' magic and doing tests and putting like stones on them, like we saw with Mars and his story. Absolutely just so tragic and disturbing, and with amplified magic even close to Mars and amplifying that by like hundreds of thousands of magic users, that seems like it could create a really big deal along the road somewhere in the story. So I wonder if maybe they'll serve as kind of a villain down the road. Mars had a really cool character design, and I think it was really fun watching the Black Bulls and Golden Dawn work together to fight Mars and kind of his team of people from the Diamond Kingdom, and then also adding in backstory from all of that we saw. I remember being so confused when Mars had a second ability. He started using the fire and not just like his gems. And I was like, what? Like, I thought magic, like, you had to have one ability. But then when we saw his grimoire, it was like a combination of both the like fire ability and then also the gem ability, and then learning that the fire was Fauna's power from his backstory, his best friend. And like, I just think that's so sad. We don't know too much about this other girl, if they're gonna bring it back in the future, but like, it seems like Mars is gonna be a character that resurfaces in another season, by the way that we thought he died and then he came back and we saw him get out of there. One little thing on Mimosa, I love her healing abilities and how her healing isn't just like, I don't know, typically in like stories when there's a healing ability, the characters will just like touch someone, there'll be like a little glow and then like they'll heal. But with Mimosa's ability, it's like she has these big like leafy flowery wings and it like covers them and like her body, and like it's just so beautiful and like just really cool detail to add to her ability of healing. And then of course I had to mention Yuno's little spirit friend. She looks like a little Tinkerbell with her little green and, you know, her little blonde hair. Like, she's just so cute. Me, as I'm sure you do, hate Noelle's siblings. They're literally the worst. Like, every time they talk, I'm just like, can you just not? Just don't. Not talking to Noelle is like almost better at this point because they're just absolutely horrendous. And it kind of seems like Noelle's mom probably died giving birth to her or something similar. But like, that has nothing to do with Noelle ending her mom's life. Like, that's not her fault. That wasn't her choice. So like, why do the siblings keep saying that? Like, they're just terrible. I don't like them. Another person I very much dislike is the king. I'm sure that's also a very popular opinion amongst fans. He's just like, he's such a doofus. Like, he just sits there and doesn't make smart decisions. I can tell he only cares about himself and he just wants to be like the center of attention. I'm like, just give like the Wizard King the role of like also being the king. Next is my thoughts on Figolion, if that's how you say his name, Figolion, the voice of Tengen from Demon Slayer. I need to stop. I pick up on these things and it's fun. Anyway, Demon Slayer is my favorite anime if you don't know. But he just like died. He's not dead yet. His grimoire did not disappear, even though he looked very dead. I was kind of wondering why his blood was so like not red and like very dark. I totally just kicked my camera, I apologize. But he just seems like such a good character, like kind of like a big brotherish character. Like, honestly, he reminded me of Rengoku in a way from Demon Slayer. And of course, during that whole fight, we had the introduction of, and I can't remember their names, so forgive me, but like the zombie ability guy and then the other spatial user who had like the red dots on his face, which I literally need to stop. But like, he reminded me of Rui from Demon Slayer because like the red dots against like his pale face, he was nothing like Rui, but like maybe like Rui's grandfather or something. If he had like a grandfather that was like a spider demon. Anyway, if you have not seen Demon Slayer, I apologize because all of these random things that I have to say probably mean nothing to you. But anyway. Oh, Sally reminds me of Hanji from Attack on Titan. Arc 3, Black Rover. So for the record, Black Rover has been my favorite Black Clover song for like a year now. Even though I hadn't watched Black Clover, I would like blast this song all the time in the car. So starting off with Gauche, learning more about him was much needed. I like did not like him from the start, of course, just because he has this very strange complex about his little sister that just makes everything kind of disturbing and disgusting. So learning more about his backstory and kind of learning why he's like that, I really enjoyed, and I was like glad to know that he wasn't just a creep. Especially because he's the voice of Rengoku from Demon Slayer, and that just already puts kind of like an icky vibe in my head. So moving past that, I think his mirror ability is really cool. His mirror magic kind of reminds me of the same kind of technique that's used in Zelda Wind Waker. So now we have Licht, who has been introduced into the story, and it seems like he'll probably be the big bad of the story if I'm to make an assumption now. His whole thing hasn't been resolved yet as of the end of season 1, and so I assume he'll probably be the big bad. But we kind of got his story about all of his people dying, and it was very unclear, and so I of course think we're going to get more of this in probably season 2. But something that he said to Ghosh that was really interesting is that he didn't want to harm him, compared to like the other characters that were there, like Yami and Asta. I think Finral was there. Like, he didn't want to hurt Ghosh for whatever reason, and so I feel like that interaction will come back later, probably during a time where I'll have forgotten by then, but cool foreshadowing for whatever that's to entail in the future. I also think it's interesting that Licht is kind of painted as this kind of super bad person, but he has light ability. So like typically he would have like Yami's ability, which seems to be like a very dark energy, but the light and these like light spears and swords is a really interesting concept. But we had 3 more characters introduced, kind of, it seemed like the right-hand people of Licht, and the girl, the one with the pink hair, kind of reminded me of Mars's best friend, that girl. And I wonder if they're somehow the same person, like if that girl from the Diamond Kingdom survived somehow and she was able to grow up. She kind of seemed like she was under a trance by the way her eyes were. The other 2 didn't really seem that way in my opinion. It seemed like they were kind of thinking more for themselves, but she seemed to be more in a trance-like state. And then her ability was like that phoenix fire stuff that she was doing, which was very similar to the fire abilities of Mars's friend. And so that was interesting, something I'll definitely keep in mind for moving forward. Okay, I know that Noelle can't really control her magic that well, and like especially at the beginning, and now she's kind of trying to work through it more, but like I kind of felt like for most of the season she just kind of like sat around during all of like the battles. And like, yes, she was protecting people with like her bubble magic, but like, and of course that's like so important. Like, of course, like, yes, we want to protect people, but like, I don't know, during like the whole kidnapping arc thing, she kind of was just like in the village calling Buha and like just staying there. Like, I don't know. There were just like certain circumstances where I was like, oh yep, there's Noelle doing nothing again. Like, come on, girl. You got power. Just, you gotta work harder. Like, look at Asta. Take from him. Lastly, for this arc, we got to find out about a traitor amongst the Magic Knights, which completely threw me off guard. I was not expecting there to be a traitor amongst them, but before they said it, I kind of guessed it was the Purple Orcas guy just because we hadn't seen, like, anything of him. It could have also been like the sleeping lady, but I don't know, she just like seemed a bit different. Or it could have been the boy that does the painting magic, but we didn't obviously get to see him as much either. But I don't know, there was something about the Purple Orca guy that just seems so creepy. Also, I call him the Buzz Lightyear guy because he kind of looks like Buzz Lightyear. I think it might be the teeth and like the head shape. I don't know, I'm sorry. Also like the purple, but like it just makes me laugh. But I was surprised we got to find that out so soon, because typically when there's a traitor in stories, it takes like forever to find out who it is, so that was cool. Arc 4, Guess Who's Back, was the title of this theme song. This arc was mainly the Water Temple arc, if I can call it that. I'm not really familiar with what the arcs are called as much yet. I was very proud of Noelle during this arc. I think she did definitely increase her abilities. She was able to get all of the Black Bulls down into the Water Temple. Everyone believed in her. She was able to do it. She found that courage and strength within herself, which was awesome considering I hadn't really felt anything for Noelle this whole season. So props to her for that. But once they make it down to the Water Temple, they're put into this situation where Yami can't help them during this like game. I absolutely hate it when characters are put into this situation that's super dangerous and harmful and their mentor can't do anything to save them. It like pulls at my heartstrings so much, and I think this is when I started to like Yami a lot more, was when he then jumped into the battle and he overcame all of that and like helped them eventually as he could. But oh my gosh, yeah, this whole arc was really cool. But before we get there to the defeat of Veto, when Yami showed up, we started off with the Black Bulls slowly gathering. So I think it started off with like Luck and Magna fighting, and then Vanessa and Asta joined in. And then stinking Finral shows up and he's like, oh, I think I should run, like, I can't do this. Actual coward. Like, I think I yelled coward at the TV because I was just so over him. I do not like him. It was cool seeing Vanessa fight, but like still don't really care for her. I think her magic ability is interesting, but like still not too big a fan of her, but like at least she helped fight, whereas Finral just kind of was like, all right, well, guess I'm leaving. He did come back, so I have to give him props for that, but like, he's at the bottom of my list right now. I'm watching you, Finral. I do not care for you. But jumping back to Veto, I was really shocked when he slashed the singing girl, Kahono or something. When he slashed her like ability to sing, that was really sad. And then her brother's leg, which he needs for his dancing ability, like, the Veto guy just completely destroyed both of them. And that was really, really tragic. Like, that really got to me. And seeing their reactions to that, and then Noelle's reaction, like, I actually started tearing up during that because that was really emotional. But I really loved Noelle's kind of friendship that she formed with Kahono. If I'm saying that name correctly, I'm trying to remember it. But their friendship was really sweet, and her ability to help Noelle understand her magic a bit better. And so I'm sure they'll resurface again and have a bigger moment. Then of course we had to close off the season with a big cliffhanger. Seems like the Diamond Kingdom is attacking the Clover Kingdom, and the guy with the red curly hair reminds me of Ganondorf from Zelda. That's so random, I'm sorry, and I keep like comparing everything to Black Clover apparently, but you know, what can you do? But anyway, those are all of my thoughts on season 1 of Black Clover. I wanted to quickly rank the Black Bulls so far. For every video I make breaking down the seasons as I watch them, I wanted to rank the Black Bulls and see how it changes over time. And then probably by the end of the whole story, I'll have a video of just ranking the Black Bulls, if I can even do it at that point. So this is just a ranking for season 1. I'm sure this will change dramatically as I continue watching the show. But my number 1 place right now is Luck. I just think he's so cute. I just love his passion and his energy. In place 2, we have Charmy. I did not get to even talk about Charmy during this episode, I think, at all, but she is so sweet and cute and like so funny with all of her food abilities. She seems really powerful from what I've seen so far. I'm excited to see more of her. Then next is probably Asta and then Noelle. I really like their development so far throughout the season. Next is Magna and Gauche. I learned more about these characters more so than I did like the other Black Bulls that are at the bottom of my list. So I'm putting Gauche here just because I don't want to sentence him to the final spot of my list, just because I did learn about him. I do feel for him a bit more now, but know that he's not my favorite. Next would probably be Gordon and Gray. I enjoy them as characters, but I know absolutely nothing about them yet, so I'm just kind of intrigued by them. And then lastly would be Vanessa and Finral. I don't really know. I'd probably put Vanessa and then Finral just because Finral really just set me off when he was a coward in that last arc of the season, but he did come back, so whatever, we already talked about it. Anyway, I'm not gonna include Yami just because he's like the main one, but as far as all of kind of the students go, that would be my ranking as of now. That is going to wrap it up for this video. I know I jabbered on probably way too much in this video, but I am just so excited for Black Clover, and I hope someone out there enjoys this video. And I hope you enjoy my journey through watching Black Clover. I will see you next time with season 2, my thoughts and feelings for Black Clover. Bye!